Okay, I guess I should actually talk into the mic. Again, I have a script here, but sometimes I like to go off the script. So my boss over there is going to have to probably tell me when to wrap it up. But hello, everyone. How are you all doing?
Hi.
All right. Yes, I heard some cheers. Appreciate it. Well, welcome to ABC 10 presents Sacramento's Black Wall Street, exploring the Black entrepreneurial spirit in Sacramento. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to go through some introductions. So if everyone can just briefly state their name and their position, that'll be awesome.
I'm Tom Donaldson. Most of you know. Are we on? Yeah, we're on. I'm Tom Donaldson, and I own the building, 74,000 square feet, and I walk every square foot of it almost every single day.
That's a lot of walking.
That is a lot of walking. But my true prayer has been answered when I was able to introduce my daughter on my staff, Samantha. It's one thing for one person to build something, but it's another thing to know that you're handing it off to somebody who's going to pick it up and take it forward. So I'm more than grateful to God for providing me with a daughter with the wherewithal to help me manage the property.
I love that. Feel free to wave. I know where you're at. Yes. And then we're going to introduce Robin. Oh, you're being told to stand up.
Come on, stand.
I love how everyone's going to photo. This is awesome. Robin.
Good afternoon. My name is Robin Rose Hamer, and my entrepreneurial work is in grant writing. To the gentleman who mentioned resources, I'm happy to connect and provide more information. But my day job is as the Vice President of Capital Impact, which is a consulting firm.
Chris.
Hey, so I'm Chris Lobson. I am the creator, founder, and owner of Sac Black Biz, which is Sacramento County's biggest, baddest, dopest online directory of Sacramento Black-owned businesses. We run the largest database and directory of Black-owned businesses in Sacramento County. I'm also one of the lead organizers with two organizations, the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California and the American Redress Coalition of California, which are California-based, descendant-led grassroots organizations working for reparations and reparative justice here in the state of California. We're one of the 6 anchor organizations elected by the official California Reparations Commission to the community outreach.
Perfect.
Wow.
Thank you. We'll give an applause to the entire panel. Thank you so much. And so now that we've gotten through the name and the positions and organizations, let's get into Black entrepreneurship and why is it so important after, especially just seeing the masculine. Who wants to take that question?
Be happy to
The
start.
owner of Florence Square.
Be happy to start. When I first came to Florence Square,
Let's use the mic if possible.
okay, when I first came to Florence Square, it was really after, get this number right, it was after almost 40 years of working with apartments and homes up until then. I'm a manufacturing engineer, and I started back in 1966. And I remember when I graduated high school in '66, I asked God for 2 things. Now, you need to know I'm a praying person. And one thing I learned in the church is you got to be quick to pray. If you have an issue, you don't think about it, you just start praying. And I remember I prayed, I asked God for 2 things. I said, "Dear Lord, when I finish high school, I want to be a machinist, and I want to come to California." And then I didn't think much of it, except I was forced to join the Air Force. So I joined the Air Force, came to California, and lo and behold, a year later, I'm sitting up in Bill Air Force Base in a machine shop. And I'm thinking, how in the world did that happen? I prayed for this and I got it. So from that point on, I knew that praying works. And I never hesitated from that point on to ask God for anything that I wanted, when it comes to entrepreneurship, I understand the need for Black people and all people to bond together. And it hurt me when I talked to Black people and you don't know where you came from. I mean, you're getting away from your roots. Eventually, Spirit brought me here to Florence Square, and the minute I walked into the building, I felt it. I talked to Rick Jennings, I talked to people who ran Travelers Aid, I talked to other people who volunteered at Center for Family Fathers, and I found my true peers here. So that's what brought me really to the entrepreneur spirit here in Florence Square, because a spirit brought me here, and I'm going to stay.
And you're going to stay.
And I'm going to stay.
I love that. Do you all have any follow-ups or comments on the importance of Black entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. Everybody loves a little data, right? A few numbers to back up.
You know the reporter does.
Yes. So the reality is most millionaires are entrepreneurs. So if you want to make lots of money, work for yourself. Most people think that the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, those people make up the majority of the millionaires. But really, that's only about 11% of them. The rest of the folks, they had their own businesses. So that's why you should be an entrepreneur. That's why Black entrepreneurism is so important, because that's how wealth building happens.
Yeah, just like to quickly add to that, just to add to what both of my folks up here said. So entrepreneurship is important, particularly in the Black and African American community, specifically for those of us who descend from U.S. slavery, right? As you mentioned in the screening, and as was mentioned in the screening, the folks in Tulsa, by the way, there were many Tulsas, there were many Black Wall Streets.
Right.
There were many of those similar and same communities, but those are folks who were the children or children's children of those who were enslaved in this country. So I think they would also say that entrepreneurship was important for them. I think we'll probably say the same thing here, is that entrepreneurship is not only a way to build individual wealth, it's not only a way to fulfill your own personal ambitions, it's also a way to build and create and then transfer community wealth. It actually, in addition, business and entrepreneurship in other communities are parts of those communities' institutions. So communities have different institutions, and entrepreneurship and business are one of those institutions that communities use to be the best that they can be. Last thing I'll say is the business and entrepreneurial institution also enables you to do good political work too, because our politics is in large part based on the business institutions in many ways also.
Thank you for that. Thank you for those comments. I'm gonna be honest, I have about 10 questions here. I know I'm not gonna get through all of them. But this one I do want to ask. Why is it important to reveal untold stories in the history of the Black experience in America, like the Tulsa Race Massacre and the Black Wall Street and the Greenwood District in Tulsa? Who wants to take that one first?
You have to understand, history doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean truth. It just means his story. And to the winner goes, they write the story. They write the story. And for many, many, many years, the narrative for Black people was, you're shiftless and you're lazy. But we know that we have dreams, we have desires, and we're hardworking. I tell the kids that I mentor that really it only requires two things to be successful in America. You have to be willing to work. There's no question about that. And you have to be willing to learn. But if you don't want to learn and you don't want to work, the society has sort of programmed you to go to jail. And you're programmed that way. And they don't know that the history that we have lived through to getting where we are right now. So it's important for me to instill in all the young people the fact that we have history. Even though it's not being taught in your school, we have history. And we should be very proud of it. So that's one thing I really want to do, is expose our young people to history. And then give them a piece of what it's like to be part of a business. Because the other thing that I try to impress upon them, they have no idea what their value is. They have no idea. And you watch most of society, our society, they try to devalue their lives. And that's going to force them to think, well, maybe I'm not worth anything. Maybe I shouldn't go to school. Maybe I shouldn't learn to read. I mean, why? Why would I do that? And that's what blows my mind. I hate the fact that if you rely on our school system to produce good, strong, healthy, well-mannered people, we're in trouble. It takes a parent, it takes neighbors, it takes people who understand where the kids are going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, and help them get there healthy.
Thank you. I'm sure Rob and Chris have some comments.
I was lucky enough to be raised by a history teacher. And at the time, I don't know that I was very happy about it, but I certainly am incredibly grateful now as I'm pursuing my doctorate in education. The reality is absolutely true about what Mr. Donaldson is saying, and the people who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. And it is not just limited to facts and figures in a book. It's literally everything. It's your family history, it's your health history, it is all that your neighborhood history, it's your school history, it's literally all of those things. And so, also to Mr. Donaldson's point, our current educational system doesn't always present those things in an interesting and compelling way, which make it very hard for young people to want to know those things. But the reality is that the most successful people are continuous learners, people who are striving on a daily basis to uncover some new facet of life and some new way of moving things forward. Sometimes it's scary because most people aren't real comfortable with change, and innovation is also one of those words that usually lands squarely in like wealthy white people in neighborhoods. But the reality is that we all innovate, right? When you get up in the morning to water your grass and you figure out that the sprinkler's pointed in the wrong direction, you move the sprinkler. That's innovation. So really all of the parts of the things that happened historically to Black folks, African Americans, people of African descent, those are things that are imperative to understand in a meaningful way so that we can avoid them in the future. Redlining is not a historical thing. Redlining happens all the time. Gerrymandering is not a historical thing. It happens all the time. All of the voting districts in the state of California were just redrawn, and realizing that that has an impact. It didn't really impact Sacramento that much, but what happened in Los Angeles was pretty significant. And so understanding how those things work and how they impact you also provides you motivation. Everybody doesn't want to be a politician. But most of us can support people who we think would be good politicians, either financially or with some level of volunteerism. So it's important to have an understanding of what's happening politically and how that affects you, because taxes are another thing that politicians decide, and taxes affect Black Wall Street. So while we're oftentimes uncomfortable stretching our brains in ways that are oftentimes boring and don't seem super relevant to us, it's really important for us to make a practice of continuous learning. And if you have a passion for something, if you're an artist or someone who's a convener, like some people we know here, or a pastor or a writer or a photographer, it behooves you to do that extremely well, because you never know who's watching you. And again, to Mr. Donaldson's point, there are people in our neighborhoods, in our communities, at our churches that are just watching to see what opportunities may be available for them. And if you're doing your craft marginally well, they might think, I don't really want to be a photographer. But if you're doing your craft really well, you're inspiring somebody to pick up a camera or learn how to develop film or learn what those different angles or lights or all of those things do, and we might be producing the next Ansel Adams. So the reality is you never know who's watching, and you should always be continuously learning.
Stand by with the comments. Just a reminder of the question here. Why is it important to reveal untold stories?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm going to try to make it as short and sweet as possible. I think For two reasons. One, because it's so you don't make the same mistakes, and so we don't make the same mistakes that we did in the past. So that's the first reason why it's important to reveal what happened in the past, so that you don't repeat the past, you don't make the same mistakes. Second reason is so that you actually, if you can, and in this case, particularly in the case of Tulsa and the current descendants of Tulsa, or the Tulsa Project, one of which is currently Black Wall Street right here in Sacramento, Florida Square. But it's so that we actually correct what we can correct and fix what we can fix. So for example, there are living living survivors of the Tulsa massacre that we just saw right now. Some of those people are still alive right now. The Fletcher family. There's a few different families that are still alive, 101 years old, 107, 108 years old, still living, still fighting for reparations right now, still going through the courts right now. So there are things we can do to correct what happened, and again, there are things we could do to learn so that the same things that happened to those folks don't happen to us, and we make sure that we don't let it happen to us now.
Thank you. We're going to have to do a check-in of the time here shortly, but I did want to ask this next question. What are some of the biggest challenges and barriers faced by Black entrepreneurs? And with that, how can they truly be supported?
We'll do it first.
They go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's
Sure.
try to keep it a little brief here.
Yeah,
Try
so-
to do these 10 questions.
So I think some of the biggest challenges, if you talk to Black entrepreneurs, some who are in the audience now, I think some of the biggest challenges they'll tell you, and I'm very fortunate to work with Sacramento Black-owned businesses every single day. I think some of the biggest challenges that they'll tell you are that they need more people buying their products. I think they'll just tell you that they want more demand. They want more people buying their stuff. So I think that's just some of the biggest challenges that they'll tell you. Also, financing their businesses is actually really hard. Getting the support that you need to, as Mr. Donaldson said in the screening, there's a difference between starting a business and then growing a successful business. And there's steps along the way that you gotta go from actually saying, okay, I got a business now, to actually, okay, my business is successful now. There's a process to go from creation to success. And so in other communities, there are the kinds of financing and monies and supports to actually do that. In addition to the monies and supports and the finances, there's the actual technical assistance to actually do that. And we don't have that like the other communities do. So that's the first answer to the first part of the question, absolutely. Second part, and I'm gonna speak specifically about some of the work that I do to help actually fix this. In a word, reparations. I think the state of California owes Black people in the state of California who descend from U.S. slavery reparations. And the state of California is actually actively working to create a state reparations plan right now. California is the first state in the country to actually create a state reparations commission. Part of the reparations plan, I think there should be a whole section on what we need to do to support Sacramento Black-owned businesses. So for example, guaranteed contracting, guaranteed grants, guaranteed forgivable loans, demand support, technical assistance, right? I mean, there's five categories of things right there you could do, the state could do to actually support Sacramento County and California-based Black-owned businesses.
Robin, I see you shaking your head.
So one of the reasons why I got into grant writing specifically was for small Black nonprofit organizations. I had several friends who were trying to do amazingly good work without any financial support. But grant writing is a really technical on purpose, like it rewrites white supremacy right there. It's difficult on purpose, but if you know how to do it, you have the key to the lock. And so helping people to get the assets that they need to be able to do the good work that helps the community is an important part of that. But it also doesn't stop there, because with grants and nonprofit organizations, it's incredibly important to make sure that you're collecting good data. because in order to get more money or larger amounts of money, you have to have a demonstrated track record of success. So there's a lot of great work that Chris is out there doing, but he has to have a data set. He has to have an Excel spreadsheet or some sort of database that records all the people that he's talked to, or all the contributions that he's raised, or all of the change makers who are involved, because that's how you tell your story. And storytelling is another very important aspect of why the change is necessary and how change can come about. And that's why partners like ABC 10 are very important in that process, because as Mr. Donaldson mentioned, the person who holds the pen tells the story. So it's important to, first of all, figure out how to get yourself a pen, and second of all, how to understand what the words on the page will have an impact to. So understanding that all of the small efforts roll up hugely into big efforts, but recording those accurately, getting strong support on a financial side, because when you're a small business owner, you're working hand to mouth. It's very, very hard, but keeping that strong set of books that keeps your business finances separate from your personal finances largely impacts your ability to get more money. And the point is really to get more money.
Right.
So.
I'm not mad at that part, just so we're clear. Sure, we have last comments here.
There's a book, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, and I read it, and I've been a manufacturing engineer for 52 years. And in manufacturing, as a senior manufacturing engineer, when I'm given a project, I'm given a budget, and I'm told to get this thing done in 1 year and don't overspend it, and have the payback, so it pays back the company within 1 year. So whatever you spend, you have to have the payback within 1 year. Very difficult thing to do. I approach the same thing with this building. It's a project, and I look at the return on investment, and I look at the investment we have to make in our young ones, in our products, in our training, in our marketing, and then I look at the bottom line and say, let's get this done as fast as possible, maybe not a year, but let's create a plan. Now, I also learned in manufacturing, you ain't got no plan if you don't write it down. You ain't got no plan. We're BSing, it sounds good, but if you don't write it down, it ain't no plan. It sounds good, but it ain't no plan. It's just a dream. Write the plan down. You can show it to your pastor, you can show it to your mentor, you can show it to other people, and they can help you correct it, and they can also hold you accountable to that plan. That's what makes a big difference in success. You can dream it, you can think about it, but how are you going to get out of bed and do it? Well, if someone's going to hold you accountable, it urges you every day, it reinforces every day while you're doing it, and you're very much likely to succeed. You are.
Robin, I want to start with you because you did mention ABC 10. So for this question, how can news outlets support historically marginalized communities? Again, those communities that have been overlooked or underrepresented, or maybe their stories have been told not accurately, right?
So it's a very brave space that news outlets walk into to positively support Black folks. It is really easy and accepted to vilify Black people. But when you tell a positive Black story, you send a message to not only Black people, but other folks that this is appropriate and it's time. So the reality is the reason why slavery was able to be perpetuated was because of marketing. Nothing that slave owners and people who moved slaves from Africa to countries said about Africans was true. They just wrote it down and passed it around, and then people believed it. So the reality is now it's time to do the reverse. Tell the story that is accurate and give people who are doing amazingly important work the opportunity to share that. The story about Mr. Poole and that fishing situation, oh my gosh, he needs a special, right? 3,200 people since he started fishing. Fishing is great for a lot of things, but the health benefits alone are a reason why that man needs a television special. So the reality is we have 500 channels on TV 24 hours a day, and I don't know about y'all, but I had to turn my cable off because most of the time I turned on the TV, there was nothing good to watch. So if we now have the opportunity to put something valuable on the screens that everybody is stuck to, we can now retell the story of why Africans were great, right? There's a reason why Africa hasn't sunk into the Atlantic Ocean and all of the folks that are there are still thriving. That's because we have a lineage of incredibly resilient humans. Life started there, by the way, but we were not gonna go there. We're not going to go there. But the point is that that's why the stories need to be told. That's why ABC 10 is brave. That is why we count on you. We need you to continue to let us hold a microphone. Not because we have a lot of flashy, important, fly things to say and do, but also because it's true, and the truth need be told. Let the last be first, and the first be last, and let's call it square. Let's call it square.
Did you all have any comments on how news outlets can support marginalized communities?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So I think that's right. I think a few things. First, y'all should hire more black people.
I'm here.
Right. We need triple, double, triple, right? Hire more black folks. Also empower more black folks in your news media company to do things like you're doing here, and to empower folks like yourself to do more of this. But two things generally, in addition to that. First, be specific. Be very specific about the community that you're talking about. So when you try to do something for black people, say you're doing it for black people. Don't be scared to say the word black people.
Come on.
Don't be scared to say the word black people who descend from U.S. slavery specifically either. Don't be scared to target, like, be very specific about the communities. I know sometimes we use words like people of color, we use words like disadvantaged communities, we use all different kind of words, but you gotta be very specific, because what happened to us was very specific. So if you're gonna address it, you gotta be very specific too, and I'm a strong advocate for those of us who descend from U.S. slavery, because we are a specific group of people. So be very specific about those people. That was the people in the screen, by the way, right? So that's the first thing. That's the next thing. And last thing is, be consistent. Be consistent. We don't just want to see you during Black History Month.
Amen.
Which is when we normally see you.
Right.
We don't just want to see you then. It's August now, so that's good, but it's Black August, right? So let's see you on a monthly basis. Let's see you on a bi-weekly basis. I think those are things that you can do also. So be very specific and also be very consistent.
Thank you. Okay, I so appreciate you all, seriously. The transparency, being open, answering these questions, especially as it relates to how news outlets can support our diverse communities. And again, as I mentioned earlier, in the screening, ABC 10 truly is committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, putting the time and the effort into the race and culture team, but not just the race and culture team, it truly is ABC 10 as a station. So it's not just me doing these reports, it's not just our team, it's any general assignment reporter ensuring that these sorts of stories are being told year round, right? Not just during Black History Month.
Okay.
So we so appreciate you. I do want to open the floor now for questions from the audience, if we have any for the panel. We have one, okay. I believe we have a mic. If not, I could use. Okay. We have several.
Hi, God bless you all. I don't know if I should stand up or not, but I'm so used to preaching, so it's
Have your seat.
God bless you. Actually, my name is Ivy. I'm the owner of Beat Me Now establishment. It's brand new, and I'm stuck. I don't know what to do next. God put it in my spirit. This is my general manager, just us two, and I'm glad I came here because I came in and I learned so much in a short period of time that there's more like me, there's more entrepreneurs. And I heard in such a short time, I was disappointed that I had to use the bathroom because I know I missed something. But I had to go to the bathroom, but I'm glad I'm back, and I'm just asking. I don't know what to do next. I'm legal, got the LLC, I got the shirt, the hat, the match is beautiful, because I know I have to do more, and if I believe, and I trust God. God said just go, and I'm here. So I'm asking if anyone can help me. I'm not asking for no money, I'm not asking for a handout. I'm doing the best I can do with what I got, but I just want to be beneficial to the people in the community. And I understand vegan is not popular with our culture, but trust me, I guess you can tell with my stomach that I'm vegan. I'm trying to learn how to eat vegan, but this happened from a diabetes episode. And so since it helped me, I know it can help the rest of the community if they see me, the preacher. And plus I used to be a rapper, so that gets the hood. And I just need help. Somebody just can, I'm trying to get 2 trucks. I'm trying to make a difference. And someone told me I can start here and associate with everyone else. And News 10, what I'm going to say now, I know you guys don't know, nobody knows what I'm going to say, but I was going to sell my story that I got to Fox, but I'm not. If you guys are listening to me, I'll give it to you guys, and y'all can do it exclusive. This is a serious situation. It's called my Jeffrey Dahmer experience. And if anybody knows about Jeffrey Dahmer, then they know what that's about. But 10, whoever 10 is, whoever you guys are around here, I would talk to you guys first, and if you guys want to do it, I'll do it. And I won't go to no other news media. I was just sitting here praying about it. So if you guys want to do that, I'll do that. Just show my appreciation. Thank you.
First off, thank you so much for those comments. And then, of course, we'll be sure to give you our information and connect you, particularly within the race and culture team, so we can have some conversations. And did you all have any comments as it relates to?
Aaron has a
Oh, perfect.
So, hi, sir, we're very glad that you are here, very glad. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Aaron Boyce. I am the marketing manager of Flower Square. I also happen to be the executive director of the Flower Square Community Development Corporation. That's very important to what you just said, because we look for folks like you to help. That, so part of our mission is to work with other organizations, such as the local chambers, such as ABC 10, such as anybody who wants to help, so that we can provide information and resources and consulting for anybody who wants to share the dream that entrepreneurship is the way to success. And so if that's what you want, we are here for you. And our building, part of the things that we do, and Tom Donaldson, he is my king. Okay, because the reason why I'm here is for all the stuff that he does that a lot of people don't know. But one thing that he does is he's told me, he said, look, I'm willing to use my building to help these folks. So not just people within, but the actual space. So come and see me, all right, and we'll talk. And that's for anybody else who has a dream. We are here for you.
Thank you, Aaron. That's what Florence Square is all about. Do we want to go to another? Yes, perfect.
Thank you for allowing me the mic. But I wanted to say that Florence Square puts out a very nice magazine that tells you what's going on in the community. And a couple of weeks ago, Florence Square had a summit where all of the things that you're asking for were presented in that summit. So Florence Square is available, they're open, you can take their code so that you can keep up with what's going on in the community. But 2 weeks ago, you missed everything that you're right now asking for. It was right here, part of it was in the sanctuary. And Chris, we missed you on that day. Sorry about your vendor. But Florence Square has what you need.
Hello, my name is Dr. Shaka Muhammad. I have some comments, just a few comments to make. I appreciate the information at this point in time, because I think this is historic time. I remember when that the Al Geiger and Henry Hawthorne and Mr. Donaldson started this. This was their dream, was to become an incubator. And I'm glad to see Mr. Donaldson continuing that dream. You know, I wanted to say a couple of things. Success as we know it depends on three things: money, power, and recognition. You get any of the two, and a third will come. Okay? But we also have to watch out for the 4 P's: politics, politics, and political pimping. Okay? So, and I wanted to say that we're talking about history here. They showed the film and showed Betty from Culture Collection. Betty's father, Herman Lawson, was not only the first city councilman here, black city councilman in Sacramento, but he was also one of the original Tuskegee Airmen, called Ace Lawson.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much. Being an immigrant, it's really educational to learn all this stuff because it's not stuff that normally people talk about. But anyway, my question was, for those of us who are starting a business, and especially in tech, it's not a very welcoming space for Black people. So what are some of the ways that you think we could be more welcoming without being like coming off as fake, but like we want to be inclusive and we want people who are Black or Native to come and work with us and give us their experiences and actually make our team better. But we don't want to come across as like we're just doing it for show, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, interestingly, for the last 20 years of my career, I've been in workforce development. And being authentic and not performative is very important, particularly in the tech space. So I have 2 recommendations. The first one is get connected with the Sacramento Black Chamber of Commerce, because that is a very authentic way in between network mixers and other opportunities to get connected with folks who could provide you a pipeline. But the other thing is also to make sure that your business is inclusive and accessible, because just because you want people to work there doesn't mean they will be comfortable when they get there. So making sure that belonging piece of your work environment is intact and everybody has the cultural competence to receive the people who you want to be there. Because it doesn't matter how much money you pay, if folks aren't welcomed and they don't feel like they belong, then they're not going to stay. So it's really important that you do a kind of a heat check on organization to make sure that you're in a position to welcome in the staff that you're looking for.
I love the entrepreneurial spirit of creating something new, but you have to know that you're trying to overcome a resistance. It's brand new, you're overcoming resistance. So it takes a strong fortitude and a good plan. So I think working with the chamber is your first good step, and then talking to somebody who's in the field, who's already done it, and look for advice that way.
I can connect you to Lewis Stewart. He does recruitment for a large tech company, and
Good.
he can help you with that.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Robin. I love that comment, because it's not just about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Everyone wants to talk about DEI, but sometimes they forget the B for belonging.
We also have to add in justice, which is another important part of that. But that's a whole other hour.
That's
We don't
another
have time.
panel. We have another question.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Elise King, and I just heard about this on the news, and that was great. That was wonderful. I did want to speak to every person on the panel and say thank you so much for being willing to stand out and give your opinions and your thoughts. I completely agree. We all come from the same place, and I think that is really important to remember. And Mr. Donaldson, I can't speak to you because you're just, you're like an icon and you're something. I don't know what to say. Mr. Lawson, I have a lot of ideas about the reparations. And one of them is that we're talking about numbers, so there's only 6% Black Americans in California. And so how much power do we have to do anything if we just keep telling our story? So if we now take a look at the history and of reparations for the other races in the country, It's not done on a piecemeal. It's not done by Arkansas and Missouri and Ohio and California, but it's done in a way that we use Social Security, we use Medicare, we use free education. So if we go to our legislature and we say, we're not voting for you unless you give our kids free college. They can go to the free state college. We're not voting for you unless you fix the issue for our seniors right now, which is that their Social Security is much lower than everyone else's because they could not get certain jobs, and the jobs that they got were low paying. Give them all $1,000 a month. We go and we say, these children deserve some medical assurance that they're going to be taken care of. And additionally, they should each get $500 or $800 a month per child by the federal government, by the whole country, who is using our tax base, okay, to make these changes in our community. And it's our community, not the black community, it's the country, it's a whole community. We need to make sure that everyone has a fair chance and that we make up for all of the things that have happened in the past.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And I was hoping someone, and you did, I was hoping someone talked about reparations or asked about it. To your first point, black folks who descend from U.S. slavery in this state, no more than 6% of the state population. But California is a big state, so that makes us actually the fifth, or the state with the fifth largest black population in the country, actually. So although we're 6% of the state population, we're 6% of 40 million people. That's about 2 million people-ish. So that means we have the fifth largest black population of any state in the country. So that's your first one. I just want to add some context and some numbers there. Also, you're absolutely right. In the cases of reparations where other groups got reparations, yeah, there are some state efforts, for other different groups too, but the federal government actually took on the federal responsibility to do a national reparations program. So for the Japanese community, for our Native community, right, there were national programs. For black folks who descend from U.S. slavery in the state of California, the California Reparations Bill that was signed in 2020 by the governor that created California's first in the nation Reparations Commission. I had the pleasure of actually working on the language for that law, and the last section of the law, we actually got a piece of language in there that actually talks to your point, which says that although California is doing this, this doesn't preclude the federal government or take away the federal government's responsibility to do a national reparations program. So that's to your other point. And then to your last point, we say the word reparations a lot. What do we mean? So the California Reparations Commission actually is bound by law with creating a reparations plan that fits with what we think are the five, or what we know are the five internationally accepted forms of reparations. If you go anywhere in the world, if you go to the United Nations uses this sort of way of thinking about reparations. So reparations equals compensation, restitution, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition. That's compensation, so that's the financial money part. Restitution, that's returning land and returning stolen property. Rehabilitation, those are all the things that you talked about, actually, the non-financial forms. Satisfaction, this goes to changing our history. Telling our correct history, and actually telling the history right. And then guarantees of non-repetition. So this is not doing the things and making sure that the group who was affected don't have to go through the same thing again. So this is changing laws, making us a protected class, etc., right? Putting protections around us as a people. And so all the things that you asked for, you talked about as a part of what you want to see as reparations, I expect California will be the first state to actually do in real life. And the only other thing to say is, although I care about what happens to everyone, I'm very focused on the black descendant community because that's the folks who were in the screening. We're their great grandkids or their grandkids. Right? That's right, great, right on. So like, we have, something specifically was done to us as a specific group of people, we gotta do something specific, so corrective as a specific group of people, so we gotta be very specific. And then that does help other people in the country too, but my main concern, our main concern is focusing directly on the descendant community.
Do you have any other questions?
More of a comment or some information. My name is Kim and I work with Chris with the Coalition for Just and Equitable California. Just want to tell everybody in the room that we are going to be having a community reparations listening session on August the 27th, Saturday. We'll leave some flyers at the front so everybody can get one. But this listening session is going to be focused on business community. We want to hear what the Black business community wants and what a reparations package could look like to help Black business owners. We also have a space earmarked or looking at to build a Black business resource center in the Del Paso area. Similar to what they're doing here, but not so much of a retail space, more of a resource space with food trucks, ghost kitchens, and places where you can just go and create your commerce to grow your business. So hope to see you all out there Saturday the 27th.
Do you have any questions of the sort? Oh, beginning of the time. Okay, well, again, do we have at least one? Do we have time for one more? You see how the reporter does, I like to go over the time. This will be the last comment or question.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. My name is Nikki Porter, and I'm the director of the Mountain Day School Academy that's housed right here at Florence Square. And my question is, being able to expose the youth, Florence Square also has youth entrepreneurial programs.